Now then, episode 3 of the Eminence in Shadow season 2 is out, and the episode is titled The Hour of Awakening, which actually has a double meaning, signifying the awakening of not just the Blood Queen Elizabeth, but also for Claire Kagenou, as we'll soon see. As usual, I'll be breaking down the episode along with taking a look at the changes and cut content as well, because this episode probably has the most changes so far. And it goes without saying, there will be spoilers for people who haven't watched the episode yet, so here's a spoiler warning just in case. If you enjoyed this breakdown video, be sure to leave a like and feel free to subscribe to the channel as well, it helps a lot. To start, we continue from the previous episode 2 and Crimson has indeed died after getting completely annihilated by Shadow. However, the comedic sequence that happens in the light novel afterwards where Shadow was searching for the Blood Queen was unfortunately removed from the episode. Instead, he decides to leave to search the other parts of the tower and to steal more gold coins from the treasure room. Now, shortly after he left, Claire and Mary arrived as well, but the scene where Claire finds the dead body and discovering it wasn't her brother happened off screen. As for the resurrection of the Blood Queen, the episode did an original sequence and uses a rose to symbolize a rebirth, which was a nice design choice because roses are sometimes associated with vampires. That said, many of the sequences in the episode that happened after Elizabeth's awakening were actually vastly different from the light novel. The first change was after Beta and her team arrived to rescue Claire. Their reasoning for staying behind to fight Elizabeth was quite different. In the light novel, Beta felt responsible for letting Claire get injured, so she wanted to redeem herself by defeating Elizabeth, whereas in the anime, Beta fought Elizabeth because she assumed that Shadow still had some other grand purpose to achieve, so he was leaving the Blood Queen to them. Another change was how the fight between Beta's team and Elizabeth took place. So in the light novel, Mary actually took care of Claire while Beta's team fought against Elizabeth, but in the episode, number 664 was the one responsible for keeping Claire alive. Additionally, Rose was supposed to be the one doing most of the fighting, but in the episode, they made Beta the main fighter instead. Personally, I'm not sure why they decided to go with Beta, but it was still nice to see them explore more of her fighting style. Furthermore, some minor detail regarding the 3 rookies was removed from the episode as well, like how they were able to impress Beta with the leadership of number 664, the wisdom and intellect of number 665, and Rose's battle prowess during their fight against Elizabeth. Nonetheless, they did at least keep the out-of-pocket comment from Mary that Elizabeth was in a weakened state because she is apparently just a late riser, which was such a hilarious way to cut the tension. But continuing on, Yukime and Juggernaut soon arrived as well, but sadly the section where they joined in to fight Elizabeth was omitted from the episode and they were simply observing the battle. Although Juggernaut did at least get a cheeky punch on Elizabeth, but it didn't really do anything and he was thrown aside. In any case, when Elizabeth releases a barrage of blood arrows, they were all severely injured except for Yukime because Juggernaut apparently helped to protect her, which is such a cute gesture. Aside from this, the anime actually provided some context on the Blood Queen's power level that wasn't really mentioned in the anime. It was stated by Beta that Elizabeth had magical energy that was greater than Alpha, so this means that she might be stronger than the 7 Shadows, at least when it comes to power, but seeing how devastating her attack was, her overall skill level can probably outclass them as well. With that said, the anime definitely did a great job at showcasing the grim nature of that situation, and the part where Beta was ready to sacrifice herself so that the others could escape with Claire, and her little nod to Rose that she still has something to do was a really heartbreaking and touching moment. Of course, it became even worse when Elizabeth used her vampiric abilities to control blood to reactivate the effects of demon possession inside Beta, Rose, Claire, number 664 and 665, causing their magical energy to lose control. This will be explained when Claire meets with the Witch of Calamity Aurora, which I'll get into right now. Also, I was quite surprised to see a brief vision of Beta's past in the anime, adding a layer of anxiety that we never see from the usually composed Beta, and her facial expressions perfectly captured her fears. So anyways, regarding Claire's meeting with Aurora, the only difference was actually the setting. In the light novel, they met inside a blank white space, whereas in the episode, Claire would wake up inside an infirmary, wearing school PE clothing from Sid's previous world. Now, I personally thought this made sense in the context of the anime because back in season 1, it was already established that the sanctuary was always quite modern, and since Aurora was the one that created this mindscape, it only makes sense for someone who grew up inside the sanctuary to create something based on this aesthetic choice. Or perhaps when Aurora first met Sid, she somehow accessed his memories and recreated this setting based on that. But what are your thoughts on this? Which one do you think makes more sense, or do you have another theory as to why they went with this aesthetic choice? Now, to continue, seeing how Aurora was constantly teasing and joking around while Claire was annoyed was quite hilarious, showing us more of Aurora's quirky side. She even copied Sid's cryptic way of speaking by telling Claire about the person that saved her, and this wouldn't be the first time that Aurora copied from him, as we'll soon see. Nevertheless, the contents of her explanation actually did follow everything mentioned in the light novel word for word. And to simplify what she said, essentially, the blood of a progenitor vampire and possessed all came from her, but at some point in time, they had diverged and evolved into separate bloodlines. But when those bloodlines reunite, their different characteristics will cause the blood of a host to go berserk, resulting in the magic tumors we normally see growing on their body. This means that Claire and the other girls that suffer from this basically have both types of blood within them, but because they lack the ability to control and stabilize the blood, it caused them to become the corrupted creatures we see. That's why Elizabeth was able to reactivate the demon possessed inside them. Unfortunately, similar to the light novel, before we could learn more about this, Claire had to return to the outside world and Aurora would engrave a magic insignia on her left hand so that she can control this power. Now back in the outside world, the Witch of Calamity briefly takes control of Claire's body to help fight Elizabeth, and again, the episode's adaptation was quite different from the light novel. In fact, the preceding sequence actually contradicts a major plot point that happened in volume 5 of the light novel. To explain, in the episode we see Beta outright realizing that Aurora was controlling Claire, whereas in the light novel, none of them knew this. Even until volume 5, only Zeta and her Splinter faction knew that Aurora was inside of Claire, while the rest of Shadow Garden still had no idea. That's why I was surprised they went with this contradicting review, and having Beta finding out in the anime meant that she'll definitely be reporting it to Alpha afterwards, which will greatly affect Zeta's storyline later on. Maybe if the anime does eventually adapt to volume 5, we'll see what approach the author will take for this altered storyline. But I digress, the fight that followed between Aurora and Elizabeth was actually insane, and even though the fight was quite short, the anime still did an amazing job with the animation to convey how vastly different their strength was, and it was only natural that Aurora completely decimated Elizabeth because she's the OG. I also liked how the anime even added some comedy into the fight by having Aurora trying to steal Sid's I am the all-range atomic, but sadly she failed because Claire's body couldn't handle the amount of magical energy, and seeing Beta's reaction as this was happening was absolutely hilarious. It's refreshing to see her behaving in such a jealous and adorable manner. Now moving on, Aurora soon left after sensing Shadow's presence, and he really does know how to make an entrance. He even has a new one-liner, and the shimmering gold coins on his slime bodysuit was a really nice touch. He then starts to exchange blows with Elizabeth, and even though the fight looked amazing, there were still some aspects from the light novel that were lost in this fight. For example, in the light novel, he was only using a sword during the fight, unlike what we saw in the episode, and the part where he fights against Elizabeth's blood clones was also removed. Furthermore, Shadow being sent flying by Elizabeth because he was carrying too much gold coins was omitted from the episode as well. It would have been nice if they kept this because it provides some nice comical aspect into the fight, but then again, the anime has always established their version of Shadow to be more infallible and unstoppable as compared to the light novel, so I can understand the choice to remove the scene. At least they retained the part where Shadow was trying to save his coins and having Beta just completely misunderstanding his intentions to protect them. And the voice actress for Beta was really giving her all in the motivational scene, which definitely helped to make it even funnier. In any case, Shadow couldn't let any more of his precious gold coins get destroyed, so he decides to end it, and the following close-up with Elizabeth was just the stuff of beauty, not to mention the godly fight scene that came afterwards as well. And it's crazy that this is just the third episode, and the production is already giving us this level of quality. And we finally got another atomic ability from Shadow, I am Recovery Atomic. I honestly did not expect it to be so amazing because in the light novel, it only affected the tower area, but here in the episode, it covered the entire lawless city. I also noticed that instead of the typical purple glow of his I am Atomic, Recovery Atomic seemed to be white in color, which might represent the healing element and purity of this skill. Again, I can't commend the production enough for such attention to detail. And another aspect that surprised me, Elizabeth actually getting lines to speak because in the light novel, she was mostly silent and Shadow really be collecting powerful waifus everywhere he goes. Having said that, the battle ended and the episode did well to conclude all the storylines that the 3 episodes covered. We see Beta briefly using the blood mist technique, although it wasn't explicitly mentioned how she acquired this ability, and Mary was finally reunited with her beloved Queen Elizabeth. There was also the resolution for the mini-plot involving Quinta and Goldie as well as Scar and Poe. It was hilarious how both their conversation directly parallels their experiences in the lawless city. The episode even answered how Sid was able to cure everyone. Because ghouls were actually similar to vampires and possessed, they are magically overloaded beings but just with different names. Claire also acquired a new power and further reinforces the idea that she is indeed the main character in Sid's Eminence in Shadow routine. Also the contrast in the conversation between Claire realizing she has some special power that she doesn't understand while Sid is just being supportive, thinking that his sister is simply in a Chunibyo phase was hilarious. I mean, it was definitely wholesome seeing him being this understanding towards his sister, but it was for all the wrong reasons, which honestly made it even better. I enjoyed the episode overall, even if there were quite a few changes made to the source material. There was also a post-credit scene of Shadow meeting with Yukime, although the setting was slightly different. In the light novel, he actually met her in the White Tower back in the Lawless City, but here they're meeting on the train in the Midgar Kingdom. Nonetheless, this minor detail doesn't really affect much because it still helps to set up for the next major plot, which will be crazy good.
I am Recovery Atomic.
So yeah, that's everything on the third episode, and what are some of your favorite moments? Also, did you enjoy learning about the card content for this episode? And do you think they should have kept some of them? Let me know all of those in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this episode breakdown and card content video, don't forget to leave a like or subscribe to the channel and hit that notification button as well for more content like this in the future. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay safe everyone.